Okay, we're now streaming. We're starting to get people in. We can have up to 100 people in here at once. I swear I have 2 monitors, and sometimes I don't think I have enough monitors.
I would like 3.
Oh my
If that's
God.
possible.
I just set up this brand new mount, and it does all it's a vertical mount. So I have my larger 27-inch with all the viewing down below, and then all the documents and stuff I need on my top 25-inch widescreen above it.
Nice.
So it makes it pretty good to keep an eye on things. All right, folks, 2 minutes. We're going to get this show on the road. Ranjeev, you were right. We have a couple more people ahead of you. I will start your video when we get closer to your section. We've got lots of people joining us right now.
I don't see our
Supreme Court justices.
Here we go. Noah.
Okay, just another minute and before we get started. There we are. Just in time. All right, folks. Before we get started, if I can ask all candidates in the room to please be sure to set your Zoom meeting settings into gallery view. This way you can see calls for how much time you have from Louise tonight. So let's get started. First off, I want to thank everyone. My name is Kent Douglas. I chair the 11th Congressional District Democratic Party. And I am the chair and technical operator for this evening. So I will be handling a lot of the gadgets and goodies that make this possible. Tonight, I'd like to introduce our moderator, the chair of Northfield Democratic Club, Lisa Dorado. Lisa's waving. She will be our moderator for this evening and sort of the MC, if you will. Louise Weller is going to be our timekeeper. Louise will be handling most of the time rules for our forum respondents to keep their answers on time, and so that way no one is getting their time wasted this evening. Louise, if I'm going to leave it to you for a second, if you want to give an explanation of what you'll be doing this evening in brief.
But what I'll be doing is you'll see this card to show how much time you have left. I will let you know when you're within 30 seconds, and then there'll be a stop sign when you come to the end of your allotted time, plus there'll be a little chime that will.
Thank you, Louise. That being said, I'm going to give my pitch. As the 11th District Democratic Party, we are one of the major representatives helping our Congresswoman Haley Stevens get reelected for her next consecutive term. If you'd like to help us, you can either pick up a t-shirt on our website, 11th Dems, spelled 11th with the number 11.com/contribute, or you can contribute a small monthly sum. It would all go a great lengths to helping us out in supporting Haley and helping support Democrats down ballot as the election year winds up. That being said, it is with my great distinctive pleasure to provide the rules of what this evening will be. And the rules are going to be quite straightforward. We are doing this forum in a League of Women Voters type of style. This is not a debate. We are not expecting the candidates to respond or retract to each other. We therefore ask that no one openly attack or accuse the candidates either from the audience or towards each other. This is strictly a formal exchange between the audience, who are the voters, and our candidates, and giving them a chance to be heard on how they would handle themselves in office. Aside from that, as far as time rules are concerned tonight, with the exception of our 2 state Supreme Court candidates who are going to be with us here briefly, every candidate is going to get 2-minute opening statements, 1-minute closing statements, and 2-minute responses to questions. With that, I'm going to move us on, and I hand things over to Lisa Dorado. Lisa, it's all yours.
Hello, hi. Well, it's this is democracy in action, and seeing all of you, there's so many people on this forum to hear about the candidates. It really just does my heart well. Let's begin. We are going to begin hearing from our Supreme Court candidates, and we will begin with 5 minutes from each of them. We will begin with Justice Bridget Mary McCormack. It's such an honor to have you here. So if you can start us off.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us, and thank you for, it's doing my heart well too. Seeing so many people already figuring out how to meet in this unusual time and focus on such an important election. I'm very excited to see everybody here. So thank you very much, and thank you for having me. The Supreme Court election, as you all know, because you're tuned in here instead of doing something else on Wednesday night, is an interesting one, and one that relies on and counts on all of you, perhaps more than any other race, because although we are nominated by the party, we run on the nonpartisan section of the ballot, and that means there's a significant drop-off from the top of the ballot to the bottom of the ballot in a typical election year, up to 35% of people who vote the top of the ballot do not vote for their Supreme Court justices, and that's a significant drop off. And so we really are grateful that we're having a chance to talk to you already. I was elected to the court in 2012 when there was an open seat. There's an open seat this year as well. And we have a fantastic candidate in Elizabeth Welch, and I'll turn back to that at the end. But when I ran, there was an open seat. I was then on the faculty at the University of Michigan Law School and the Associate Dean for Clinical Affairs. I founded a number of clinical programs, including a domestic violence clinic, a pediatric health advocacy clinic, and the Michigan Innocence Clinic, which has exonerated 23 people since we founded it in 2008. And I've been honored since I've been on the court to be part of important decisions that have increased and improved access to justice. I think everybody on this call understands the important decision-making role the court plays. The court makes the final decision in every kind of case that affects you and your family and your neighborhood, your community, and your state. Civil, criminal, you name it. And very few of our cases go to the federal courts. Since I've been on the court, one case has gone to the US Supreme Court. For the most part, we are the final decision makers in lots of disputes that make a difference in our communities, a tremendous difference. But in addition to the decision-making function, the court by constitution has the constitutional responsibility of administrative oversight of the courts of the state. And that I want to talk about briefly. Because it's there in that administrative role that we have a tremendous opportunity, in my view, to have a positive impact on the people of our state. And I'm going to talk specifically about a few things that I have spent a lot of time on in the last year in that role. I am currently the court's Chief Justice, which means I have a significant administrative docket. But in particular, I'm going to tell you about three things, just so you understand exactly how important this role is and why it really, really matters who sits on your court in addition to the decisions we make. The first is I have chaired for the last 15, 16 months the governor's task force on jail and pretrial incarceration. I've co-chaired it with the lieutenant governor. Michigan's county jail populations have tripled over the last 30 years, even though crime is at a 50-year low. We did not know why, because we did not have statewide data. We now do. We have statewide data. We can tell you exactly why our jail populations have grown. And we made 18 comprehensive, innovative, evidence-based, values-based recommendations to change all of that. And I'm proud to say that the first tranche of those have bill numbers. And I think we can make Michigan a national leader in jail and pretrial reform if we push that across the finish line. The second is the Justice for All Task Force, which I founded over a year ago. In Michigan, 8 out of 10 people cannot afford a lawyer when they have civil legal problems. So they're getting evicted, they have a family law issue, they have a consumer debt issue, important issues that impact their livelihood, their housing, their family. And if they can't afford a lawyer, they have to manage courts on their own. That undermines equal access to justice. And we have an ambitious goal in our Justice for All Task Force of achieving 100% access within 3 years. Happy to say more about that if anybody's interested. But finally, the last thing that I've been spending a lot of time on lately is moving courts quickly to an online format. Our courts now throughout the state are doing Zoom hearings and live streaming them to YouTube. And it turns out it is a way to deliver, in many cases, more efficient, more consumer friendly, more transparent, and more accessible access to justice. And Michigan has become a national leader in that, in large part because we had a little bit of a head start. Our judges already had Zoom licenses, and my time is up. I want to say that I am really glad Elizabeth Welch is running for the open seat, and that's where I was going to finish. But anyway, she'll speak now.
Thank you so much, Justice McCormack. Thank you so much. And I'd like to welcome Elizabeth Welch. She did visit our Northville Club. I know she's visited many of your clubs, and she is dynamic, and we are thrilled to endorse her, of course, as we are endorsing Justice McCormack. And here she is. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Yes, I was pleased to make it to just about every club in person in Oakland County. I think maybe a couple, but I've hit them all now, I think, by Zoom. So had certainly hoped to be on the road and continue all the work I was doing. 1,200 miles a week on my car, because I do live in Grand Rapids, but I was over on the east side of the state 4 to 5 days a week, all of pretty much mid-December through mid-March. But I'm grateful because I did get to meet a lot of you in person before everything did shut down. And now when I get on these Zoom calls, I'm grateful because I do recognize a lot of faces and names, and I appreciate it. So I want to just talk a little bit quickly about me. Many of you have heard my background, but I'll do the quick, like, the 1-minute primer, and then really quickly why this seat at this moment of time is just a huge opportunity. So quickly about me, I've been practicing law for 25 years. I do employment law, which means my last few months of my practice have actually been extraordinarily busy because employment law attorneys have had to navigate a lot with COVID-19. A lot of the new laws, whether unemployment or workplace safety or paycheck protection, all those things were pushed through employers. And so for those of us who I work with small businesses, nonprofits, and individuals. So it has been a busy few months, but good to have a skill set that's useful. And I've been putting regular blog posts. You can check out all that stuff. I've been, my campaign manager, Tara, has done a great job keeping the public updated on all that work. But then I've also worn a lot of other hats besides being an employment law attorney. I actually I was a past chair of the congressional district in the 3rd Congressional District. I was, and then the past vice chair of the Kent County Democratic Party. In about 2012, I sort of moved more into issue advocacy and focused a lot on public schools. I've been involved really since the early 2000s, but got really involved, stepped onto a school board, and had been working on issues about public schools and equitable funding. I'm a part of a group, which many of you may be familiar with, called the School Finance Research Collaborative, which was studying the true cost to educate a child and now is looking at funding for schools, which of course schools right now are going to be navigating a tough road ahead. So that's my background as far as public education. I found myself in the Capitol a lot, working on education policy, working with folks from across both political sides of the aisle on important issues that impact kids in our state. I also did a bunch of work on voter protection, heading up our voter protection efforts in Kent County with over 200 volunteers in polling places, working to protect voter rights. And that work was bigger than just election day, but actually meeting with clerks and making sure clerks were really ready to go with the backup and support they needed, and hopefully helping them with blind spots so that we didn't run into problems that seem to happen a lot at polling places, especially after Proposal 3. There were new rules in place and we wanted to make sure they were ready. And then finally, I'm the past board president, or I guess past at this point, board president of Michigan League of Conservation Voters, and served on that board for 8 years. This particular race, we have an open seat, as the Chief Justice noted, and the court the justices are nominated by political parties. So the Chief Justice and I both have the Michigan Democratic Party's early endorsement, the process that the party now uses, which is hugely helpful and really important because the official nomination probably will not be until probably like around the last week of August. We don't know yet for sure, but most likely that's when it usually is. Absentee ballots get mailed September 23rd. And I think we all know a lot of people are going to vote absentee. So you all are so important. And obviously that early endorsement allows us to move forward into a general election mode, which is super important. We know the Republicans are going to be nominating 2 people, and then obviously third party candidates may pop up on the ballot too. It's a tough race because people often, first there's voter drop off, they don't flip the ballot over, and then those who do often guess. We don't want them guessing, we want them to know who to vote for. So I have the privilege and honor of working together with the Chief Justice. We are totally working as a team on this, which all of you should feel good about. It's efficient, but it's also our way to hopefully really brand and get through to the voters. Most people can't name a single justice on the Michigan Supreme Court, which is really a shame because, one, the Chief Justice is amazing, so they should definitely be able to at least name her. But it's even more of a shame for democracy because this is our third branch of government. And those 7 justices, the importance of their decisions are basically the same as the governor or the legislature, and people don't know who they are. So I'll stop there because I got a big red sign. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Justice McCormack. Thank you, Elizabeth Welch. I think you're both amazing, and we are thrilled to elect you in November, re-elect you and elect you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Now we'll be going to the House District 21 candidates. As you know, Representative Christy Pagan is term limited out. So we have 2 candidates running for that position, Ethan Petzold and Ranjeev Puri. Both of you can unmute yourselves, and we will begin with opening statements. Those will be in alphabetical order. So Ethan, you can start with your opening statement.
Great. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, 2 minutes.
Great. Thank you. Well, good evening, Democrats. I'm running for state representative to fight for anyone who's been knocked down. And we know that this virus has knocked down a lot of us. I know what it's like to be the underdog. My family coming here as refugees, escaping the Armenian genocide, and growing up in a middle-class household, watching my parents work full-time, go to school at night, but still worry about paying the bills. Growing up, I struggled in school, and it was deemed unlikely I would even graduate high school. But against the odds, I was fortunate to have attended strong public schools with great staff that helped me rise to overcome those challenges, even when others said I couldn't. Those teachers are the reason I can stand before you today. They inspired me to want to live a life dedicated to lifting up those who've been knocked down. And that's why I became a nonprofit professional and community organizer. But all my work started when I got involved in Democratic politics here in the 11th Congressional District while I was still in high school. From this, I learned about community organizing from knocking on doors in this district. I witnessed individuals making a difference in the lives of others as I led volunteer efforts and earned the President's Volunteer Service Award twice under President Obama. I've seen how we can come together to affect change when I served as campaign manager when we flipped our local government from red to blue. And I'm proud to have represented Democratic voters in this district when you voted for me to be the youngest person in Michigan history to serve as a delegate at the 2016 Democratic National Convention. At the end of the day, I know what it's like to be knocked down and what it means to struggle. That's why I've dedicated my life to giving ordinary people a fair shot and a seat at the table. I hope to earn your vote, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ethan. Okay, Ranjeev, 2 minutes, please.
Great. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep, sounds
All right,
great.
fantastic. Well, thank you for having us, and thank you to the 11th Dems for putting this on. Again, my name is Ranjeev Puri. A little bit about myself. I am the father for 2 small boys headed to Plymouth Canton schools. I am the husband of a very savvy and talented small business owner, and I am the son of immigrants. And I bring that up because my parents came to this country nearly 50 years ago for the sole reason of providing their future children more opportunity. I watched, and as the immigrant experience completely shaped my childhood and my upbringing. I watched as my dad went from machinist to turned engineer, and my mom worked as a registered nurse for over 35 years before she retired. Watching her work selflessly to take care of her community, watching my parents build their communities is where public service was instilled into me. And those values led me to 2008, where I got a chance to work with President Barack Obama. So I was living out in Chicago at the time, and being in Chicago, working for the president during those years was a transcendent experience. It absolutely shaped the way I view, quite frankly, the world. And I loved every minute of it that I did whatever I could to get a staff position on his 2012 re-election campaign. And it was the day after we won that campaign where he came into the office and he surprised us at headquarters. And he took a small bunch of us into a room, and he cheered us on and told us that it's our turn, that this is as far as he's gonna go. And he challenged me personally to go into my community and be that change. I'm not an emotional person, but you know, being close to the president, watching him bring him to tears, I was in tears. I went home that day and I told my wife, listen, I know what I need to do. I finished my MBA at the University of Chicago, came to Michigan and got started in the automotive industry. But more importantly, I started paying attention. I got a chance to work with Democrats up and down the ballot, working and understanding all the inequalities and inequities that exist in Michigan, for how Michigan's working families are being left behind, and how so many kids and so many communities are disenfranchised because of poor schools. And what, are we doing enough to be able to look our kids in the eyes that we're doing enough to fight for their future? And with that, I hope to earn your vote and look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much, Ranjeev. And now our first question. And this will be reverse order. Ranjeev will go first, 2 minutes. If elected, what is the greatest priority you look forward to working on in January 2021?
Yes, this is one of the most important questions. And without fail right now, the biggest priority for Michigan is understanding how we're going to respond to this COVID crisis. By no means are we out of this crisis, and we are at full risk for a second wave coming. This is a public health crisis first and foremost, and we need to do whatever we can to limit exposure to Michiganders all across the state. We have seen how this virus has disproportionately affected communities of color throughout Michigan. We have seen the impacts of the first wave and how it hit Michigan so hard. On top of that, we're going to face a multi-billion-dollar, multi-year budget hit from the COVID crisis, and that's going to affect all the things that all the values and priorities that us Democrats have. Our public schools are facing potentially a $1.3 billion budget cut next year. How are we going to respond to those issues? This is a healthcare issue. That by no means should anyone ever have to think about, can I go to the hospital and pay this bill, or have to make that decision if going to the hospital or fighting for the health is something that they're going to need to decide. This is an issue for our small businesses across the state. Our economy is under assault right now. Why this is important is because of Proposition A from the 90s. Our sales tax formula generates revenue for so many different things of our Michigan's budget. And so what we need to do right now is we need to limit the effects of COVID. This is going to be in our life for a long time. We need to follow the science, follow the instructions of the orders coming out of the governor's office, and make sure that we're taking care of all Michiganders and limiting exposure.
Thank you so much. And with that, Ethan, what is the greatest priority that you look forward to working on?
Thank you. That's a really good question. And, I think the biggest priority on voters' minds today is the coronavirus. Governor Whitmer's done a fantastic job at leading us with science and data. And that's why we're one of only 2 states that are on track to contain the virus. But our top priority of anybody in office next year needs to be helping us rebuild as we reel from the effects of this virus. The next state representative is going to take office with a weak economy, a larger budget deficit than we even saw during the Great Recession, and divided government. And my experience as a nonprofit professional taught me how to work with people of different backgrounds and opinions under tight budgets, but still get things done for people and meet the mission of an organization. And that's why, that makes me uniquely qualified to lead on day one, to make sure that we're rebuilding in a way where all of us come along, rebuilding in a way with job training and healthcare and education at the forefront, rebuilding in a way that we have paid family leave, rebuilding in a way where we acknowledge the racial disparities in COVID-19 death rates between Black and white Michiganders, and acknowledging the ways that we need to break down that systemic racism. I think that that's the top priority, is rebuilding in a way that all of us come along and everyone benefits.
Thank you, Ethan. Thank you very much. Okay, next, Ethan will start with this question. What are your plans to improve racial justice in your community?
Mm-hmm. That's a really good question. When you look at the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and every single Black and brown person killed, named and unnamed, at the hands of police, those aren't isolated incidents. They're products of systemic racism, and it's cost Black Americans and all people of color their freedom, their safety, their ability to build education and wealth, and it's cost them their lives. And so I approach this with a deep sense of humility. I understand that as a white person, I don't fully know what the experiences are that some of my constituents would face, of different races, of different religions. But I think that it's important that I build a campaign and a legislative office that's reflective of the community I hope to represent, ensuring that marginalized communities have a seat at the table by making it a point to elevate diverse voices, evaluating all policies through the lens of justice and the effects of systemic racism. And I've tried to do this work as a community organizer when I managed Dr. Syed Taj's campaign for supervisor, where we work to engage communities that had never been engaged in the political process before in my district. So I think as I continue in politics, the best thing that I can do is listen and learn, work at dismantling those oppressive systems and allowing marginalized voices to lead and not taking up all the space.
Thank you so much, Ethan. Okay, Ranjeev, what are your plans to improve racial justice in your community?
Yeah, this is absolutely top of mind and a very personal issue to me. I have two small boys, and my boys will grow up in Michigan where they will be judged by the color of their skin. It's time for changes now. These conversations are long overdue. There has been systemic inequalities since the existence of this country. There's 7 people running in this race for state representative in the House District 21. There have been multiple rallies all across the district fighting for racial justice and stopping the injustice that exists all across this country. I've been the only candidate in this race to show up to every single one of those rallies. This issue is top of mind for me. I know firsthand the experience of it. We are running in one of the most rapidly diversifying districts in the entire state. There are community members from all across the world in all backgrounds, all races, all religions that have come to make our district so beautiful and so vibrant. So many of those communities have been disenfranchised for a long time. Our campaign is spearheading that. From the moment we launched our campaign over a year ago, we launched with the message of inclusivity, equality, and equity. And what that meant was bringing the campaign to these people, to these disenfranchised communities. We have been localizing our literature in over 10 different languages. We have a campaign team that speaks over 10 different languages. We have people from all sorts of faiths, backgrounds, and sexual orientations that make up our diverse team. We have been reaching new communities and bringing new communities and hope to gain thousands of new voters out to the polls to help Democrats up and down the ballot. Because what we need more people in elected offices who understand these perspectives from firsthand and are prioritizing these issues. And these are no longer things that are nice to have, but things that we need, the change we need now.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, next question. It's back to you, Ranjeev. For transparency's sake, who makes up most of your donor base?
Yeah, this is a question I love answering. Our campaign is funded completely by working individuals. We do not have a single dime from any corporate PACs. On top of that, we have over 500 contributions that have made individual contributors that have made up our funds. Now, why this has been interesting is because if you go through our campaign finance reports, which are obviously public, you will see a number of new names from all sorts of backgrounds. We have started a movement here over a year ago that has been talking to new communities, people that have never donated before, people that quite frankly never even voted before. And we obviously are building a coalition here. We have teachers and union workers and people from the healthcare industry and all facets of our economy. But we have a diverse coalition of a lot of new people who are excited about the movement that we're bringing and the glass ceiling that we can hopefully break with this campaign.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ethan.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm really proud of the donor base that we have. No contributions from corporate special interests. 87% of our contributions are $100 or less. 56% were $25 or less. And $1 in $5 raised by our campaign were raised by people who work in our public schools. Those are unprecedented numbers. And I'm really proud to, be running a campaign that's funded by the people that I hope to bring voice to in Lansing. And I really quickly want to go back to what was mentioned at the last question. I went to 3 Black Lives Matter rallies in our district, and one of them I was the only candidate at. So I just wanted to set the record straight on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethan. Okay, let's go to the next question. Ethan will be starting. Given the state of things financially, how will you deal with the lack of funding in the state budget? It's a huge question.
Yes, that is a huge question. I see a budget as a moral document. It's a reflection of our values as a state. And there's no question that we'll be under a really tight budget. And the state constitution requires that we do balance that budget. So the real question isn't whether we will balance the budget, but who will that budget be balanced on the backs of? Will we balance it on the backs of those who've been knocked down most by this virus, like the Republicans have for the last 10 years? Or will the wealthy and corporate executives start paying their fair share? I think that we need to make sure we are prioritizing things like education and healthcare. And we need to enact a graduated income tax to make the wealthy pay more, and tax breaks for companies that send jobs out of Michigan. And then we'll have the money to reinvest in the areas that we need to invest in most as we reel from the coronavirus. And that'll be a budget that actually reflects the values of hardworking Michiganders. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethan. Okay, Ranjeev, how would you deal with the lack of funding in the state budget?
This is an absolute, this is a very important question, and something that we're absolutely going to be dealing with for at least a few years here. And so I think experience matters. I have an MBA from the University of Chicago in finance. I worked in 2012 on President Obama's budget strategy team, managing over $1 billion. I work in the finance industry with Fiat Chrysler, and I understand budgets extremely well. But the issue we're going to have here, though, is that at the end of the day, no matter how you slice it and dice it, we're going to have budget cuts. Right now, we're projecting, as I mentioned earlier, over a $6 billion hit, a multi-year hit to our state budget. That's a lot of money. We're gonna have to have tough conversations across the board. I think it's extremely important right now that we start building coalitions, because what we've seen for the last few years and cycles in Lansing is a lot of political theater and gamesmanship, and it's time that our elected officials come together and start finding solutions for Michigan. And so building coalitions is something that I pride myself in and I'm very proud of. I have the endorsement of the UAW and making sure that our plants and our jobs stay here in Michigan. I have the endorsement of the MEA and making sure, because there's thousands of teachers in our district who trust me to ensure that we're fully funding our schools. I have the endorsement of the Small Business Association of Michigan, because understanding that our economy is our small business economy is the economy of Michigan. And so what we need to do is we need to stop the partisanship and start coming together and finding solutions.
Thank you so much, Ranjeev. Okay, I'm going to grab a question here that came pretty early from our chat. And this will be to Ranjeev first. How will you ensure that the diverse background of our district will be properly represented in Lansing?
Yes, I think that that's very important. One of the things that makes our district, again, so beautiful is that it's one of the most rapidly diversifying districts in the entire state. There are communities of color from all backgrounds of life coming to call House District 21 home. If elected, I would be the first person of color to ever represent this district. This is a glass ceiling that I'm no means proud to break, but this is where we're at. This is reality. And so as we're having conversations at a national level about ensuring racial and social justice, it's also time that we start making sure that all communities, regardless of their background, regardless of their color, regardless of their gender, sexual orientation, health, socioeconomic status, that they have a place at the table. But it's no longer good enough just to have a seat at the table. They need to start building that table and then having a voice to make sure that they're in the decision-making process. So our team, again, is made up of diverse individuals of all backgrounds. We are doing our best to talk to new communities that have been largely disenfranchised for so long, that have never really had a voice politically and have been just knocked down. And it's time that we start giving them a voice to making sure that they are involved in this process and that the diversity that makes House District 21 so special is highlighted and brought to the forefront of policymaking issues.
Thank you, Ranjeev. Okay, Ethan.
Thank you. That's a really good question as well. And, I'm so proud to be running to represent the 21st district. I always tell people that ask that the 21st district really exemplifies the Democratic Party, the Big Ten, people of all different walks of life, religion, race, all different backgrounds, all different beliefs, all different socioeconomic statuses. And I think that that representing all people effectively is very important. And that's why I've really made it a priority in my campaign to make sure that everybody has a voice in my campaign and make sure that they have a voice in like I said earlier, I enter these discussions with an immense amount of privilege. I have to come here humbly. I don't know what it's like to suffer from some of the discrimination based on race, religion, or sex and gender. And I think it's important to defer to people that have, to let them take leadership on those issues. And I will take my cues from them and champion anything to break down things that hold people back and make sure that every voice in our community is no longer left behind. Because my campaign is about lifting up those who've been knocked down and counted out. And a lot of that, it's been happening for too long, since the founding of our country. They've not had a voice at the table. They haven't been able to help create the change that they need to live successful and good lives.
Thank you, Ethan. Okay, I have one more question. Let me grab this question off of chat. And this would be to Ethan to start. What is your stance on the funding allocation for social services such as police, schools, mental health, drug treatments, housing, etc.?
Yeah, I think it's a really important discussion to have. One thing I learned while working as a nonprofit professional is that so many of our institutions don't get to the root of problems. And one of those is law enforcement. We ask police to do the job of everyone. We underfund social services that get to the root of poverty. We underfund mental health care. We underfund social workers. I mean, I saw growing up in school, as I got older, I saw police officers in schools, but we didn't have social workers. We didn't have counselors. And I think that we really need to have a fundamental shift in priorities. We need to look at how can we create all of our institutions, from law enforcement and everything else, in a way that truly gets to the root of the problem, truly lifts people up. I also saw, while I was working with nonprofit organizations, the ways that people are really denied the opportunity that those of us, a lot of us, take for granted. And that's part of the reason I'm a Democrat, because we're the party of anyone who's been knocked down, everyone who needs a helping hand. And when I needed a helping hand, there were people that were there for me. That's why I'm a Democrat. That's why I'm running for state representative, to make sure we have a government that champions the cause of the underdog. And that means funding social services. It means making sure that our policies are accurate.
Thank you. Ranjeev, what's your stance on the funding allocation for social services such as police, schools, mental health, drug treatment, housing, etc.?
Yeah, I think if anything, the last couple months have demonstrated the inequalities that exist within our state. And unfortunately, it's largely due to the fact that we have been underfunding many of the things listed here, if not other items. And so it's time that we stop giving corporations tax breaks and start making sure that our money is going to the places where it needs to go, and start that we have preventative and proactive on all these issues. It starts with schools. We absolutely need to fully fund our schools. Again, I am proudly endorsed. I'm the only candidate here to stand with the MEA and be proudly endorsed by thousands of district teachers across our district to understand that we need to do our best to start solving these problems at an early age. The racial and educational attainment gaps, can no longer exist. We need to fight to close those. Mental health, there's been a stigma. Quite frankly, this issue is very personal to me. I've been a part of 2 pregnancies with my wife. She obviously did all the work, but I completely understand the issues of postpartum. We, unfortunately, as a society, do not talk about mental health nearly enough. We need to make it more accessible to all Michiganders. This cannot be something that you have to navigate and try to find help for. Quite frankly, a lot of times it needs to happen right away or very quickly. Drug treatments are absolutely an essential part of the underserved community. We have been partnering with organizations all across the district to ensure that we are highlighting and trying to do our best to allocate more funding to these issues. And so the question is, the answer in my mind is that we need to start these solutions at a very early part of the process, and we need to try to allot as much money and funding as we can to solve these issues.
Thank you so much. We're getting close to the end of the time. I think I can get one more in. How are you involving the voices of young people, the next generation of leadership, in your campaign? And this will start with Ranjeev.
Yeah, so this is important. I started this campaign over a year ago, fighting for diversity and inclusion, regardless of your background and belief. And that means no discrimination based on any factor, including age. I am so proud that our team is, we have 30 individuals working on my team. 90% of them are under the age of 35. Overwhelming majority of them are women and people of color. In fact, as we're on the 11th district meeting here, the 11th district youth group council, every single board member on that council is a member of my team. We are doing whatever we can to highlight the voice of all communities, young and old and everything in between, to make sure that all voices and this Michigan again works for everybody.
Well, that's a really good question. I'm proud to have been leading the way to knock down barriers and glass ceilings to get young people involved in the political process, locally and in the Democratic Party at large. I served as president of the Michigan Federation of College Democrats, where we brought suit against the state of Michigan to knock down GOP voter suppression that made it harder for college students to have the right to vote. Because of the work we did, thousands of Michiganders, young Michiganders, will be able to make their voice heard in this election. I was the youngest person to represent Michigan at the Democratic National Convention. I got involved at 14 years old. I was the youngest campaign manager for a competitive House race last cycle. I know what it's like to be young and to be denied a place at the table because of my age. And so I've done everything I could to make sure that young people are heard. That's why I'm proud to have the endorsement of the Michigan Federation of College Democrats and the Michigan Democratic Party Youth Caucus, the official chapter of the Young Democrats of America. Proud to be endorsed as the only candidate of the organizations representing Democratic voters aged 13 to 35 in this state.
Thank you so much, Ethan. And with that, we're going to closing statement. Ranjeev, you will go first. 1 minute, please.
Yeah, so thank you so much to the 11th District Dems for organizing today's candidate forum. So for over the last year, we have had thousands of conversations with neighbors and built a strong coalition to make history in this district. Our campaign from the very beginning was all about making Michigan a place which works for everyone and a place where we can all be proud to raise our family again. Our coalition spans the support of the UAW, the MEA, the Sierra Club, Planned Parenthood. We also have the endorsements, as Lisa mentioned, of the term limited incumbent, Christy Pagan, State Senator Dana Pohanke. We have over 40 organizations and individuals who are in our corner. I will spare everyone the details, but for a full list, please visit our website. But we need elected leaders with the experience to get the job done. And so I've said time and time again that this is the most important election of our lifetime. We tend to say that every cycle, but that has never been more true than it is right now. History books will be written about these very years. And when our kids grow up or our grandkids grow up, they're gonna ask, they're gonna study these very years in their history books and they're gonna ask, hey, what did you do to fight back for this? And we need to be able to look at those kids in the eyes and tell them that we did everything in our power to fight for their future. And that's what we're doing. And so I'm asking everyone here to please believe in Ranjeev and join our team.
Thank you, Ranjeev. Ethan, go ahead, 1 minute.
Well, thank you to the 11th Congressional District for holding this forum. Thank you to Lisa and Louise for helping moderate. The next state representative is going to face a state with enormous challenges. My experience as a nonprofit professional community organizer make me uniquely qualified to get things done on the issues that matter most to our community. I've managed staff and large budgets, chaired boards, led campaigns and organizations, and brought people of different backgrounds together behind common purpose. I'll bring the right experience to be an effective voice for our community. But experience only matters when you are rooted in the community and have been working to hear the concerns of the community for years. Before I ever thought about running for office, I had knocked every single neighborhood in my district several times over the decade. I've seen the issues that people have had, the things that still persist. And that's why I'm proud to be endorsed by our community's Democratic trailblazers, Diane Slavens and Stephen Schneiderman, who ran and were elected when there weren't any other Democrats. We were in the trenches together making Canton a Democratic community, and I'm proud to have their support. I hope to represent us next year.
Thank you so much, Ethan. And with that, I can say that House District 21 has 2 extraordinary candidates to choose from. Thank you so much. And with that, we will go to the Wayne County Commissioners 8th District, and it is Nina Fawaz and David Knezek. So Nina and David, if you can unmute yourselves, we will have opening statements alphabetically. Nina will begin. 2 minutes.
My apologies, Lisa. You didn't catch this on your chat. Unfortunately, we called upon Nina, and Nina has not been able to connect so far. So
Okay.
Dave will be our only speaker.
Okay, well then that's easy. I don't have to look at my sheet and go back and forth. David, how are you? Nice to see you.
Good to see you too, Lisa. I could give 2 different sides to an answer if you'd like.
You turn. So why don't we start? Go ahead with your opening statement.
Well, sure. I'll just keep it casual here. Good evening again to everybody, and thank you to the 11th District Dems for the opportunity to be with you here this evening. Again, my name is David Knezek. I'm currently the Wayne County Commissioner for the 8th District. So I represent all of Redford Township, all of Dearborn Heights, and 3 precincts in the city of Livonia. That is where we overlap with the 11th. But I've said it time and time again, both here at the Livonia.
Are you going?
I said it time and time again, both here and at the Livonia Dems, that it doesn't matter how big or how small the community is that I'm representing, they're still going to get the same level of constituent services and attention. I'm very proud of the fact of the record that I bring to this office, not just as a state representative and as a state senator, but also as a United States Marine and as the Director of Legislative Affairs to our Attorney General, Dana Nessel. This is unique in that 4 months ago, I was not in this role. My predecessor resigned from office and I was unanimously appointed to the Wayne County Commission back in February. And so just as I was starting to hit the ground running, everything came to a screeching halt with COVID and the role and responsibility changed in a drastic way. Since then, I've been so happy and excited to be reconnecting with the community, getting PPE out to our first responders, taking food directly to our senior citizens, doing everything that we can to rise to the challenge of today. So again, appreciate the opportunity to be here. Look forward to answering your questions and hope to earn not just your vote, but your trust ahead of the August primary. Thank you. I think you muted, Lisa.
Muted. I have a little dog that barks in the background. I keep muting. The county has drastically cut its workforce in recruitment, and retention for positions is challenging. How would you, as a commissioner, work to change that?
Well, to me, the big question is retention itself. And, you know, if we were having this interview 6 years ago, 8 years ago, relative to Wayne County, we'd be having a very different conversation. The economy was in a different place. We were having to make even larger cuts than what we're seeing today. We haven't rebounded in the ways that I would have liked to see. And part of that, in my opinion, just breaks down to the concept of pay and benefits. The greatest retention tool that I think that you can offer to any employee is paying them a living wage, paying them a commensurate wage, and then providing them with the healthcare benefits, the retirement benefits, the childcare benefits, you name it, that they need to be an active and engaged employee. And so as we work towards even better and stronger economic ties, as the coffers within the county continue to be replenished and continue to grow, I'm not looking for ways that I can spend that money on county commissioners. I'm not looking for ways to spend that money on pet projects. I'm looking for ways that we can take that money and put it directly into the pockets of our workers. Not only is it the right thing to do, not only have they earned it, but we also know that's going to be a great stimulus to our economy as those workers go out and reinvest those dollars back in their local communities, our local communities here in Wayne County. So for me, as the dollars come in, we're going to make sure that we steer them directly to the employees, because that's where the benefits, or where we stand to benefit the most, and where I think the need is greatest.
Thank you. If elected, what is the greatest priority you look forward to working on in January 2021?
You know, whenever I'm asked what my top priority is, I always say the same thing. And I think, you know, maybe it's frustrating to folks sometimes that they don't understand why, but Constituent services is always my #1 issue. If you don't have an office that is responsive to the constituents that you're serving, you failed. If you have not built that trust between you and the men and women that you are trying to represent, you failed. And so not only do I have or seek to have an active and engaged and a proactive office, I'm really proud of the fact that throughout the years, people have come to know that when they pick up the phone and they call me, we're going to get you an answer. I may not be the right person to bring that problem to fruition, but I'm certainly going to connect you to the person who can. And I'm going to follow up with you to make sure that you got your issue taken care of. So, it could be very unique issues from Livonia to Redford to Dearborn Heights. It could be economic development in Livonia. It could be the Ecorse Creek down there in Dearborn Heights that we're working on. Certainly, as folks know, by way of PA 51, things are different between our relationship with the township and the county. But for me, making sure that we are present, we're active, we're engaged, we're responsive, and we're getting people from point A to point B and restoring that faith in government, that is always my top priority.
Excellent, thank you. For transparency's sake, who makes up most of your donor base?
I thought I might get this one when it was asked of Ranjeev and Ethan there. And so I went to Act Blue and I pulled it up and I crunched the numbers. Do I have some PAC donations? Absolutely. We're talking about the Michigan Regional Council of Carpenters. We're talking about the UAW. These are working men and women who have pooled their money together to try and support candidates who are passionate about their issues. When you break it down dollar for dollar, 98.6% of my donations are coming directly from individuals, not just here in Wayne County, but across the state of Michigan. I looked it up. I've even got a friend down in West Virginia who's shot up $25 to be supportive. So proud of the fact that it's all coming from individuals, and proud to be a part of a party who understands and appreciates the importance of getting big money out of politics and the influence of big money out of politics. And being responsive to those small dollar donors that make this country work.
Excellent, thank you. What are your plans to improve racial justice in your community? And have you participated in the Black Lives Matter demonstration in person or through other ways?
It's a great question. I certainly appreciate it. In general, I will say that I don't think that there is anything more patriotic, and I say this as a veteran, I don't think there is anything more patriotic than to notice the flaws in our country and to want to do better, to want to be better. The exact opposite of what we're seeing from so many people today. And that is to ignorantly claim that things are perfect and things are great, and they want to disregard the major problems that we need fixing in this country. So yes, I've participated directly in some of the Black Lives Matter protests, the marches. I'm going to be doing again this Sunday in Dearborn Heights as we have one. I've contributed my dollars to individuals who have reached out in need of personal protective equipment, water, bandages, you name it, things to take care of them in case they get injured. And so I think relative to this entire conversation, what's so important for me right now is making sure that the fight that we're seeing today, the attention that we're seeing paid to these issues today, doesn't become an afterthought in just a few weeks. And part of that challenge starts with each and every one of us. It starts with me. It starts with acknowledging that when it comes to righting the wrongs of this country, to addressing racial justice and injustices head on, we are never finished. We have to go beyond our personal biases. We have to go beyond our personal prejudices and talk about the systemic racism that we see, not just in the policing that we're talking about right now in our public dialogue, but in our housing system, in our nonprofit organizations, in our corporate lives, in our news, in our politics, our employment, our healthcare. And then to your point, Lisa, find a lane that we're comfortable with to occupy. Maybe it's marching, maybe it's volunteering, maybe it's donating those dollars, but starting to learn and to understand and to recognize your own privilege, to validate the experiences of others, to challenge ourselves, to be intentional with our words, with our leadership, with our actions, and to know when it's time to shut up and listen and to follow the lead of other people. Whether it's in my hiring practices, whether it's in my internship experiences, whether it's in the organizations that I associate myself with, I think that the fight is far from over. I'm sorry, I could keep talking.
Thank you. Nope. Thank you so much. And, I have a great question here from Kate. Transparency, Kate Chashovsky, who's president of the Livonia Dems. Transparency has not been a popular issue in Wayne County government. How are you going to work to change that?
Well, I'm very proud of the fact that for a number of people on the Wayne County Commission, transparency is a very important issue. It was an important issue for my predecessor. It's an important.
It was.
So I'm certainly proud to align myself with those individuals who want to make Wayne County more open, more transparent. I think about when I was in the House and in the Senate, everything that I did was televised. Everything that I did was transcribed. Everything that I did was made public. I could be held accountable as a rep and a senator. It is anathema to me why the same expectations would not be had of our county commissioners, of our city council members, you name it. And so when you talk about transparency in Wayne County government, sign me up and let me be the first to volunteer my office to be the most transparent and accountable office amongst our commissioners. I know I've got one of my colleagues on here who does a phenomenal job and is just as, if not more transparent and is setting a great example for me. That's Melissa Daub. I think I saw in the question too about Hines Park. Did you want me to go into that? No, or no?
I didn't see that one. I did see this. Wayne County will get less revenue this year. How will you balance the budget without hurting the union employees and retirees who've taken cuts in the past? I used to work for Wayne County. I know that it's just a terrible thing.
Well, and I certainly have a number of my family members who have experienced those budget cuts, both in their retirement, their pensions, you name it. And so for me, it really comes down to drawing that line in the sand. We have a almost $2 billion budget in Wayne County. And like my predecessors who were talking, Ranjeev and Ethan, you've got a choice that you have to make. Are you going to balance this budget on the backs of working people? Or are you going to find areas where the government is spending inappropriately or overspending and look to cut there first? My approach has always been to find the places where government is least efficient and to start there first, and not to start with the working men and women of our county. So one of the things that I'm very proud of is the fact that I've been put onto the audit committee. We're responsible for auditing the expenses of the county. And just the last 4 months, I've certainly learned a lot from my colleagues about where you need to be looking, the questions you need to be asking, who you need to be asking them of, and how you need to be asking those questions to get yourself the right answer. But for me, again, it comes down to line in the sand. We're not balancing this budget on the backs of working people. We're going to find it from somewhere else. Period.
Excellent. Thank you so much. With that, I did not see the, I just saw you, the Hines Park question. How will you protect Edward Hines Park? Near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, and same. I spent a lot of summers, wish I was spending some more time lately down on Hines Park. And so for me, it's understanding and leading from a place of values. I value having publicly available park space. I value having that space maintained and protected for people to enjoy. I don't support selling off that park space for the purposes of driving corporate profits or you name it. An issue that we're considering right now is at the intersection of, I believe it's Middle Belt. If it's not Middle Belt, it's Merriman and Warren Road, where they want to sell off a parcel of the public parkland for the purposes of commercial development. And folks, here's the thing. Once you sell it, it's gone. It ain't coming back. And so for me, again, it's just prioritizing protecting our public lands, protecting our environment, and maintaining it for everybody to enjoy, as opposed to selling it off to the highest bidder. So for me, again, it's about protecting our parks and maintaining them for years to come.
Excellent. Thank you. And with that, we are going to go to closing statements. Please take a minute.
If folks don't mind, I just want to say, going after Ethan and going after Ranjeev, when I got elected to the state house in 2012, I was 25 years old. And to have a young person in elected office in Lansing at the time, it was really unheard of and really strange. And seeing that both candidates we have to choose from in that race are young gentlemen, seeing the number of young candidates run across the state, for me, it's just so incredibly empowering and so great to see. And I think I'm just struggling to come to terms with the fact that at 33, I'm making the transition to the older politician, the older elected official. So with my 30 seconds, I'll just say this. I'm going to kick butt from now until August 4th. We're going to win this race, but it's not going to stop there. When I lost my election in 2012, I went all around the state campaigning to make sure that we could pick up a majority to win the governor's office, the AG, the Secretary of State. We picked up 6 seats 5 seats in the state Senate, a number of seats in the state House. You can expect that same level of commitment to me after my election in August. It doesn't stop with me because it's about more than me. It's about each and every one of us. So again, thanks for having me here. I'm sorry for going over my time.
Nope. Thank you, David. Thank you. Thank you so much. You're a terrific candidate, and we thank you for participating here with us today. With that, we'll say goodnight. Thank you. All right, let's go to our Wayne County Treasurer segment. And this will be Beverly Kindle-Walker, unmute yourself, and Eric Sabree. So we will begin with opening statements, 2 minutes. We will start with Beverly.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
11 Congressional District. Thank you all for having this opportunity for our candidates to be exposed to the western side of the county. And again, my name is Beverly Kindle-Walker, and I am a legislative assistant to the hardest working Wayne County Commissioner that we have, Commissioner Tim Killeen on the Far East side. And so I have been with him since 2007. I do public policy analyst. In particular, we deal with budget issues and the property taxes and all of those sorts of manners. I have run for the Wayne County Treasurer's Office for a number of years. I'm quite familiar with the nuances of the office and very concerned about the overwhelming property tax delinquencies, foreclosures that have transpired in the last several years. And I would like to have a complete turnaround in that area. The power is there, already vested by the General Property Tax Code, which governs the Treasurer's Office. We just need to be more creative in how we implement and manage.
Thank you so much, Beverly.
You're welcome.
Eric, 2 minutes, please. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, 11th District, and all those attending this evening's meeting. Thank you for the opportunity to participate. I'm Eric Sabree, and honored to have served you as your Wayne County Treasurer since April of 2016. Over the past 4 years, property tax foreclosures have been reduced by 86%. While building strong relationships with all 43 communities in Wayne County and nonprofit partners. This year, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, I suspended all foreclosures for 2020, and the Third Circuit Court agreed to extend the redemption period to March 31st, 2021. We reopened to the public last Wednesday by appointment only, and it's working out very well. You can go online to our homepage, and we're using the same software as the Secretary of State opened up, and we're getting over 240 people a day just by appointments, no congestion. It's working out very well. The taxpayers have more options to pay. So in the last 4 years, we established 70 locations where people can pay by kiosk, 110,000 transactions in 2019. You can pay online, pay by mail, by mobile app. Also, we've increased the community outreach. Payment plans are available to anyone. 6% interest for homeowners. And we lobbied to have this extended for 7 more years. For the first time in history, last year, we worked with the bankruptcy court so anyone that's in bankruptcy that has back taxes can take advantage of the 6% payment plan. Before they were not allowed to do that. So we are making changes to improve customer service, and that's what our main mission is to increase customer service and to make it more convenient for the taxpayers.
Thank you so much, Eric. And with that, we will begin switching with questions. And the first question will go to Eric. What are your plans to aid in dealing with the tax shortfalls in Wayne County due to the COVID and the economic crisis that we're facing?
Well, first of all, since we extended the deadline for redemption to 2021 for 2017 taxes, the priority is to find extra funding and to do outreach, additional outreach, so that taxpayers know there are programs available. We have existing programs, but we also need to get more funding for the Step Forward program, which is about to run out of funds right now. And also private funding. I've had in the past secured private funding. Last year, we secured $300,000 from one of our major banks to help 345 people get out of foreclosure. And in 2017, about 70,000. So I'm looking at private and government funding to help us with the shortfall. We know that people are struggling right now. So we want to replenish that Step Forward fund. And we also want to encourage people to talk to us, get involved with our office so they can get into a payment plan and not wait until the last minute. We feel that outreach is critical as always, but funding, we need real money. And we're actually lobbying to get the CARES Act funds to assist taxpayers right now who are facing foreclosure.
Thank you. Thank you. Beverly, what are your plans to aid in dealing with the tax shortfalls we will face due to the crisis?
Well, I would want to make sure that federal funds that are directed to the Wayne County, such as the CARES program, are really spent toward helping persons to remain in their homes with their property taxes. Unlike the hardest hit funds, which money was diverted to other areas. So I'll be very concerned in making sure that Wayne County ensures that we receive the full amount of money that has been designated from Washington coming into the county to help with property taxes. So that will be certain. The other thing I would be doing would be trying to minimize the amount of money that we spend on media advertisement because we're not really reaching our target audience of persons who we know are in danger of losing their property. So we should have more direct contact with them as opposed to all of these billboards and public service announcements that are not really reaching those persons who need to hear the message. So we spend millions in media advertisement that's unnecessary.
Okay, thank you. Beverly, next question. If elected, what is the greatest priority you look forward to working on in January 2021?
Trying to find solution to the overassessments that's been handled in the city of Detroit, which is Wayne County seat. The city of Detroit is very important to make sure people are made whole in terms of the overassessments that have been made in the last several years. And so while the county treasurer is not directly responsible for assessments, that comes out of the municipalities, but it is an extreme problem where we have $600 million of over tax assessments being made, and the county is in a way profiting off of that. So we want to make sure we stop that. We need to come up with a solution, an intergovernmental solution amongst all municipalities, because Detroit is not the only one that's been overassessed. But we need to come to a decision, a conclusion on how to address that. So that would be my number one thing to do.
Thank you, Beverly. Eric, what is your greatest priority for January 21?
My priority for January 2021 is to secure the funding, more funding to help taxpayers who are in danger of foreclosure. That would be number one priority. And after that would be the increasing our use of technology to make it more convenient for taxpayers to access our services.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay, I have a question here. I'm going to, let me go to this one. Next question is for Eric. How will you help Wayne County residents who fall into foreclosure due to economic collapse? I think you've mentioned this a little bit already, but please discuss that.
Well, using the state law that we have that allows us to help individuals who are in trouble financially. We have many payment plans that we operate right now. And we lobbied with the Lansing to get the interest rate extended to 6% for owner-occupied properties, and also working with businesses, letting them, we don't want businesses to foreclose either, because when they close, employees lose their jobs. So I think the priority, helping them access the existing programs we have, letting them know what's available. And also we have a financial empowerment center that we created. We work with Wayne Metro to give free counseling to homeowners so that they can get other wraparound services and maybe get a grant for DTE into water, improve their credit score. So with the Financial Empowerment Center and free counseling that we have, this is just an asset to our office to do a total wraparound service for the taxpayer.
Thank you, Eric. Beverly, how would you help the Wayne County residents who fall into foreclosure due to their economic collapse?
We have the information as to the persons who are in danger of going into foreclosure. I would propose more personal, direct contact because we need to reestablish the trust between the taxpayer and the Wayne County Treasurer's Office. And so I would not have any gimmicks. I would want to go directly to the taxpayers to understand what is going on at their door so that we can help them and direct them. So I'm not in favor of another layers of government. I believe that the county treasurer should establish a relationship where we could provide assistance, direct contact to the taxpayers, as opposed to going around the bases with these convoluted gimmicks.
Thank you, Beverly. And the next question will go to Beverly. How does private funding help with tax shortfalls? Is it through a grant to delinquent homeowners or a direct contribution to the county? Are you familiar with that?
Well, these are programs that has been established recently under the current treasurer. So you would have to ask him that question. But again, I say I would prefer a more direct contact with citizens to understand their issues. The treasurer does have the right to withhold any property at any time from the foreclosure process and even to the point of the auctions. So the treasurer has a great deal of power to assist our taxpayers, but have not happened so far. So I would like to see that happen more as opposed to trying to get someone else to pay the taxes when the federal government sent money to us via the hardest hit funds and the current CARES program. So there's enough money out here. We just need to be creative and apply it to the right people and not spend money in unnecessary areas that's not helping people.
Eric, can you explain the private funding to help with tax shortfalls, a grant to delinquent homeowners, or contributions to the county?
Sure, the contributions, what we did is we asked those who wanted to contribute, our private contributors, to fund the nonprofit partner that we work with, so that the money wouldn't be going to the county treasurer. It would go to the nonprofit, who then would also vet some of the taxpayers. By our office, and they would get together and say, we have a number of taxpayers who are about to get foreclosed. For instance, they would owe maybe $1,500 and they would need $1,500 to get out of foreclosure. Well, the best way we found it works is when there's a matching program. The money goes directly to the homeowner. If the homeowner comes up with a certain amount of dollars, then the match would then come in and they would get out of foreclosure. That we found that to be the best. And also we require counseling to those individuals. That they go to counseling because they may be able to access some other programs that are available through what Wayne Metro deals with and some of the other things that are going on in Wayne County, such as water grants, DTE grants, and maybe even getting repairs, some home repairs done on their properties.
Thank you, Eric. This question will go to Eric, and it came from here in our chat. What will you do to financially repair or provide recompense to homeowners who lost their home due to the hyperinflated property tax assessments? As it's been said, those are often in the local communities that are hyperinflating the property tax assessments.
The answer to that question, what will I do to do it? I won't do anything to do anything about someone that lost their property due to overassessments. I can't do anything about it, and it's a city function, and I don't have an answer to what I would do about it.
Thank you. Beverly.
Well, I certainly would be advocating for redress. The Wayne County has the Wayne County properties in the land bank, as well as other cities have first right of refusal. So we can re-examine some of those exchanges to make sure people are made whole from the unfortunate incidents of being over-assessed for their properties. This is a problem that has to be dealt with relatively soon, because as the treasurer said, it is not under the control of the treasurer, but it's certainly it's in his influence, in our circle of influence, to let people know, our elected officials, state reps, the governor, we need to come to a solution for this problem here about overassessments.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And with that, for transparency's sake, who makes up most of your donor base? And let me see, who is first? Beverly, you are first.
100% citizens, 100% friends, relatives, church members. But I'm not adverse to,
Please.
Okay, so yeah, I'm not adverse to, unions and pacts of that sort. But big business, corporations, banks, mortgages, no, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Beverly. Eric.
My donor base is, I have labor, I have business owners, friends, and family members, and just people who I've known over the I wouldn't consider them friends, but people who've known me over the last 40 years. I've been working in public service work.
Thank you. Excellent. And with that, we will go to, if I don't see any new questions, there's a couple more questions still about the overpayment, but we have asked those. I will go to our closing statement, and that will be in reverse alphabetical order, and that will be Eric first.
Okay, thank you.
1 minute.
Okay, good leadership makes a difference. The Wayne County Treasurer's Office is governed by state law. The Wayne County Treasurer's Office has to operate within a limited budget. We look out for our veterans, our first responders. They can enter into a payment plan with no money down. With increased staff training, improved accounting services, and technology, the Wayne County Treasurer's Office has made meaningful change. I have improved all areas of the Wayne County Treasurer's Office since taking office. Our switch from paper checks to electronic transfers for all our communities. One example in accounting, we send out 140,000 text messages to all of our taxpayers who are on payment plans, letting them know how much they owe and when it's due. In addition to the private funding that we secured, we're working hard to secure additional federal funding. We supported furloughed and striking workers. 2019, the federal workers were furloughed and the UAW striking workers. We made them a special priority so that they would not lose their properties and worry about foreclosure because they were out of work. And we're doing the same thing now because of COVID-19. We've improved outreach, customer service, and our very talented and dedicated staff understands that we have to put ourselves in the position of the taxpayer. And that's why I'm asking for your support to continue working for you and serving the residents of Wayne County as your treasurer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric. Beverly, 1 minute, please. Closing statement.
Again, I'm Beverly Kindle-Walker, Democratic precinct delegate for 30-some plus years. Having watched the county treasurer's office for years under Raymond J. Votovich, had a great relationship with him. He also took some of my considerations under advisement and implemented changes as I was complaining about being user-friendly. Today, we have a situation where our taxes, we're not for sure. We don't have a trust in what's happening in the treasurer's office based on previous experiences with the current treasurer. It saddens me to look around the city in this county to see what has happened because of property tax delinquency. But that's not the only thing about Wayne County Treasurer that should be important. We should make sure we're collecting taxes on businesses, personal and real property. We should make sure our millages are handled as according to the way the voters voted for them. School millages, library. We have 3 different millages currently on the ballot. We want to make sure that as the voters voted for them, the treasurer ensures that that money goes directly to where it was voted on. So there's other areas that the treasurer is responsible for. But if you would think about it, you would think that we're only interested in delinquent property taxes in auction. That is not it. That's just a fraction of what is important in the treasurer's office. So I'll ask you to search, Google, and investigate for yourself the total complexity of the Wayne County Treasurer's Office, and then vote on the track record. It's restore trust in Wayne County. Vote for Beverly Kindle-Walker on August the 4th. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Again, thank you to Beverly Kindle-Walker and to our treasurer, Eric Sabree, for answering our questions. Wayne County citizens, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we will go to our final segment, and that is the Wayne County prosecutor race. We have with us Prosecutor Kym Worthy, and we have Victoria Burton-Harris. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. So nice to see you. Excellent. Let's start again. We will do opening statements in alphabetical order. So Victoria, if you can start with your 2-minute opening statement.
Thank you. I am running to be your next Wayne County prosecutor so that I can dismantle racist practices that have encouraged and supported mass incarceration. I know that in order to end mass incarceration, you have to reform the criminal justice system by first reforming the county prosecutor's office. That's the gatekeeper to the system. I'm running for county prosecutor so that I can change the practice of punishment only in response to crime and instead lead the efforts on prevention and intervention. I want to ensure that we don't continue to feed the school to prison pipeline, that we instead offer wraparound holistic services to our youth, and that we stop treating mental illness and substance abuse as criminal issues, and that we see them as the public health crisis that they each are. One cannot get well in a cell. Cells are not where people grow, learn, and thrive. It's actually where people go to unravel, become isolated, and relegated to the bottom of society. I'm running to reform the cash bail system and increase public safety while shrinking our jail population. And as the true progressive in this race, I've been endorsed by Bernie Sanders. My experience as a criminal defense attorney, working on the ground with people in the community my entire career, it has taught me a lot. I have experience protecting people's rights against a very parasitic system, many of whom were innocent. In this criminal justice system, it's deeply connected to slavery. The 13th Amendment allows a form of slavery when someone is criminalized. And that means that this system was not built for all people. We need gatekeepers, prosecutors who know this and will enforce policies that make the system work fairly for all people. I have experience on the ground working closely with folks directly impacted by this system. And that experience has informed me that our current policies and practices, they are not working. They do not address the root causes of crime, poverty, lack of resources, mental illness, substance abuse, and unaddressed trauma. I do not have experience sending people to jail and prison, especially innocent people. According to the Vera Institute out of DC, they came up and studied our Wayne County jail last year and told us that we're jailing too many people and the wrong people. That means our diversion programs are not working as we're being told. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victoria. And with that, please, Kym, so nice to see you. Take your 2 minutes.
Good to see you. My name is Kym Worthy, and I'm the current Wayne County prosecutor. Previous to that, I was an assistant prosecutor and a circuit court judge and a recorder's court judge. Now, our policies and procedures, back in 2004, when I came into office, I was one of the only prosecutors in the country that was talking about reform at that particular time, before they were calling everybody progressives. We started out saying that we should concentrate on the proactive and be proactive when it comes to crime and not just completely reactive. We started 24 different diversion court programs. And so it started out from the teen court to lead-based paint proactivity before there was even a Flint. We talked about teen court. We also talked about truancy. We talked about young offenders. And we had diversion programs that were effective back in 2005 that still continue today. We have diverted more than 6,000 and probably closer to 10 when we include the truants, juveniles from the juvenile justice system. We have also, in our adult court, created and diverted almost 5,500 of them from the criminal justice system. So for anybody to say that we didn't talk about proactivity is just not knowing what was going on in the system. We also, yes, we are the gatekeepers. We also started the first elder abuse unit to care for our seniors. We started the first Fair Michigan project, which I co-created with now Attorney General Dana Nessel, who's the first unit in the country to deal with crimes against the LGBTQ community. We also started Michigan's first criminal Public Integrity Unit. And that is a unit that worked, I hired my biggest nemesis, Val Newman, who was nationally respected in doing these particular cases. We reviewed and we invite anyone that has a claim of new innocence to apply, and we reviewed over 1,200 cases, and we invite people to apply. We are the only ones doing this work in Michigan, so we have the most exonerations because we're the only ones bold enough to go and look at these cases, because I don't think any prosecutor's office should be afraid to look at their own convictions. We also have the rape kit crisis that we had back in 2009, where we have now convicted 215 serial rapists and rapists that were stalking the streets of Detroit and attacking our children, our seniors, our women, and our men. And also we look at treatment. We don't look at all roads lead to incarceration. We have 24 treatment courts in Detroit. I am a 30-year advocate for mental health illness reform. I have established group homes for people who didn't have any place to live. I work daily with children and teens and adults without the proper care. We have many mental illness programs in our particular office as well. We have mental health treatment courts, we have veteran courts, we have sobriety courts, and we also have.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you very much. And I'm going to go right back to Kym. What have you done in recent years to support a change in unfair incarceration rates for Black citizens in Wayne County?
Yeah, that's a good question. And a lot of things we've done, we have decriminalized crimes that we no longer prosecute. For instance, we haven't prosecuted marijuana convictions in over 5 years. We make sure we look at lower level offenders. We first look at HIDA, and that's Homeless Resource Training Act. We also look at lower level offenders for diversion. We look at other offenses as well to make sure that we don't have that pipeline going on. We also make sure that we look at each case individually. We do not process cases on a police report alone. There are 30, we look at 20,000 felony cases a year. We only issue about 60% of those. So there are 30% of cases we do not issue, for example, on domestic violence. And we have domestic violence, we have over 8,000 cases of domestic violence per year. And we only prosecute 3,600 of them. So there are 4,400 cases that we don't look at, either there wasn't a proper police investigation or something else like that was going on. So we make sure that we don't rubber stamp, because we are the gatekeepers and we take that very seriously. So we have a number of programs. We have wraparound services for the newly exonerated. We also have a juvenile mediation program where we do not look at charging. We partner with Wayne County Mediation Services, where we make sure that we have those services mediated without incarceration and without jail time. And we also are very, very strong advocates when it comes to the 1970s lawsuit that was filed against the Wayne County jails back in the 1970s. We've been working on that ever since, and I started being actively involved about 2 years ago. And now, even daily, we had a 2-hour meeting today. We are making sure that we empty the jails of people who don't deserve, who are not there because of COVID-19. Back in the March 3rd of this year, there were 1,388 people in the Wayne County Jail, and now that has dropped 41%. So we meet with the chief judge. We used to have a member of the ACLU. We meet with attorneys for the inmates. We meet with jail personnel, and we look at each and every case and make sure that they are then not in the jail due to COVID-19. So again, we look at every case very practically. We do not rubber stamp, and we have a process that we go through for every case that we charge to make sure that we are not charging the one, and we pay particular attention to lower level felonies.
Thank you so much, Kym. Victoria, what would you do to support a change in unfair incarceration rates of Black citizens in Wayne County?
Well, if you look at the front page of the New York Times this morning, I represented a man that was wrongfully prosecuted after racist, faulty technology, facial recognition technology was used to pick his face up out of a database of old driver's licenses. And the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office issued an apology and said that that case was dismissed because they didn't have sufficient evidence to move forward, and that the case should have never been brought. And I agree with that statement. The problem is that as a defense attorney, I can tell you that they do rubber stamp these warrants and authorize criminal charges all the time. I can tell you often that prosecutors are in the courtroom and telling me, Victoria, I don't even understand how or why this was charged. There's not sufficient evidence to move forward. I can tell you that if you review the record of those cases, you will see that they are oftentimes dismissed after wasting taxpayer dollars being litigated through the system. And the reason on the record is there's insufficient evidence to move forward. So the very first thing that I would do to ensure Black and brown folks are not wrongfully prosecuted and criminalized in the system where they're only 40% of the Wayne County population, yet Black folks make up the majority of the Wayne County jail population, is to make sure that I'm not prosecuting first and then investigating later. That's a simple process that you have to have a policy for in your warrant division. And if you are there to ensure the policy is being followed, apologies don't need to come. You don't need to work so hard and spend taxpayer dollars overturning convictions of wrongful and innocent people if you don't bring innocent people into the system to begin with.
Thank you, Victoria. Next question, Victoria will begin. Have you participated in demonstrations supporting Black Lives Matter in person or in other ways?
I'm proud to say that I have been at most of them that I have been invited to, and I get invites on a weekly basis. I spend my weekends on Saturdays and Sundays attending multiple rallies, and not just attending them, but I'm marching with them, I'm standing with them, and I am delivering words to them, encouraging folks to continue to march. I'm also, as an attorney with the National Lawyers Guild and National Conference of Black Lawyers, very proud to say that I'm a movement lawyer on the front lines of Black liberation. And when a protester is arrested after a lawful legal protest, I'm there, Johnny on the spot, along with several dedicated defense attorneys. And so I, as an elected official, would still be coming down and making sure that the people I serve know that I am with them, that I will march with them, that I will also make demands of our lawmakers right alongside them, because that's what a true servant does. That's what someone who represents the people does.
Thank you. Kym, have you participated in demonstrations supporting Black Lives Matter in person or in other ways?
In person, I have participated in 4 of them. And I brought my children along so they can see what the legacy will be if you properly protest and you properly march. Now, I have to return to something that was said. Clearly, my opponent does not understand how the office works. We are regularly criticized for the way that we do not rush to judgment, the way that we do not rubber stamp the police. I just have to say that. And I want to make sure that 30% of the warrants that we issue are denied for various reasons. And so, yes, I participated. I come from a family where my father was the first African-American from Michigan to graduate from West Point. If you can imagine a Black man that matriculated at West Point back in the 40s and 50s. He had shared stories with me about how he was treated, how he almost didn't make it through, how he almost lost his life. And once he was commissioned by John Dingell Sr., once he was commissioned, how he was chased with by trucks full of pitchforks and white men as he traversed and left Michigan and drove with my mother to the state of Colorado for his first assignment. It has been ingrained in me from a young child about where I came from. My parents came here from the South to work in the factories and brought their experiences with them. And we still are suffering today from some of those actions. So again, yes, I have marched. I didn't just start marching when Black Lives Matter came along. I've been marching since I was in college at the University of Michigan during the BAM movement when they were mistreating Black students on campus. So this is nothing new for me. This is nothing I just started. Again, the time to fix the roof is when the sun is shining. You don't just march when one thing happens, you march. I have marched my whole life for true justice and equality, starting from my days when I was at the University of Michigan when I was 17 years old.
Thank you, Kym. And so now we'll go to Kym for the next question. What steps do you plan to implement to safeguard against wrongful convictions?
Again, we started that since 2005. I wanted to have a conviction integrity unit when I met Craig Watkins in Dallas, Texas. And he had that unit, one of the first in the nation that was certainly operating. I rallied and I championed and I begged for funds to begin this unit to the tune of $750,000. And finally, 2.5 years ago, we were able to take the first unit. I hired a woman named Valerie Newman, who I believe was on this call, who was my biggest nemesis and has been doing this as her life's work. This is a real unit. Some units start across this country and they don't exonerate anybody. Again, we're the only ones in Michigan until our Attorney General started one that were doing this work. We invite people to do that. Some of the exonerees are my biggest supporters. And we went with some of our exonerees and Ms. Newman to the Wayne County Commission just about 3 months ago to ask this commission to be expanded, because we are not shy about inviting people to apply. Again, we have looked at over 1,200 of those cases, and we have found 700 of them to be solid. We have 500 more to investigate. It's a very long process. When you're looking at overturning of jury verdict, you have to be serious, you have to be methodical, and we want to make sure justice is done, and we're not afraid to do that. And we're the only ones in the state that are doing it.
Thank you, Kym. Victoria.
I'm going to read to you a statement from the Wayne County Prosecutor Office, a statement that was issued today. The case regarding, and I'm going to include my client, Robert Williams, the case that was, again, on the front page of the New York Times. The case was dismissed by the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office on its own motion because a supervisor reviewed the case and determined there was insufficient evidence to charge Mr. Williams. So I, again, ask the question, if there's insufficient evidence to charge him, why was he charged? This is proof positive that I, in that building every day, because I'm there in the courtroom, can tell you exactly what's happening. They oftentimes rubber stamp these warrant requests without even giving them a second glance. And their own prosecutors in the courtroom acknowledge that. And so what I will do to ensure that innocent people are not brought into the system, I won't charge people until there has been a thorough investigation. This practice of charge first, investigate later, if at all, it has to stop. It costs taxpayers too much money. When you prosecute an innocent person, it costs taxpayer dollars. And then if they're convicted and they fight for release through appeal, and the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office fights against their release at the appellate stage every step along the way, it's costing taxpayer dollars a second time. And then it costs us a third time as taxpayers to send the case through the Conviction Integrity Unit, when all we had to do to begin with was slow down, make sure that we are the gatekeepers to this system, protecting innocent people from coming in, and we do our job. At what point do we say we need to be held accountable, not just for getting praised and getting folks out, but being the ones who put people in and brought them into this system and fought their release every step along the way before we decided, okay, we'll now try to let you out through the Conviction Integrity Unit.
Thanks, Victoria. You get the next question. We have seen that there's a major shift in the public's mindset about Black lives and policing, specifically in handling policing cases. What would you see changing in Wayne County in the new term?
If I'm elected, one of the first things that we are going to do is to hold police accountable, not just when it makes the news, not just when it's popular to do so. We are going to hold police accountable when they lie in police reports. We're going to hold police accountable when they lie on the witness stand. The Wayne County Prosecutor's Office has told criminal defense attorneys in Wayne County that it was going to provide a list of untruthful officers. It has yet to do that. There are several defense attorneys on this call, and if I ask any of them if they've received it, they'll all tell you no, and it's because it has not been turned over. That not only needs to be turned over to defense attorneys, it needs to be public for everyone to see. We also, if we know that there's a list of officers who can't testify because of their history of untruthfulness on the stand or their history of untruthfulness in their police reports, why are we relying solely on police reports when we authorize warrants? Why are we not saying we need to see body cam footage in the warrant division before we authorize this? So that's going to be a new policy moving forward. When I'm elected, we are going to, again, make sure that we are doing all that we can to protect innocent people and ensure that we're holding police accountable. There's no accountability when these officers don't turn on their body-worn cameras. And that in Detroit it's policy that they do it. And when we have these cases go through the criminal legal system and they tell us, oh, nope, there's no body cam footage. Why not? Oh, I guess it wasn't turned on. Well, then who's going to hold you accountable? Why are you still allowed to be on the street doing God knows what with your body cam off against the policy of your own department? I can tell you that when you look across the nation and you see law enforcement officers taking the lives of innocent Black people, that's not the first time that they engaged in misconduct. The misconduct started when they lied in police reports in the very beginning, when they lied on the stand. So we need to be holding them all accountable, and they need to be held accountable independently, not by someone who necessarily works in the prosecutor's office. Where is the integrity in that?
Thank you, Victoria. Kym. question about how specifically in handling policing cases, what do you see changing in Wayne County in the next term?
We are the only prosecutor's office in the state that has a public integrity unit that has dedicated prosecutors that every day, day in and day out, they investigate and they prosecute police misconduct, police brutality. In fact, in just the last few years, we have prosecuted 71 officers for police misconduct, police beatings, and other police misconduct. We're the only ones in the state doing this. And you have to know your history and look at your history when it comes to me. Back in the 1990s, when Malice Green was killed by two white police officers, two white rogue police officers, I stood up and I charged those officers. And that case still stands as the first and only, well, not the only now, but the first case in American jurisprudence in the United States where two white police officers on duty were found guilty, not just charged, but found guilty of murdering Malice Green, an unarmed Black motorist, unlawfully. So since that time, we've been very serious about police brutality in Wayne County. Now I have to make sure also, back in 2011, myself and Paul Howard, who was the Fulton County DA, went all the way to the Obama administration with our 10 points. And I'm just gonna read a few of them when it comes to police brutality, what we wanted to see. We were talking about this almost 9 years ago, the things that everybody else is talking about now. A national database for police to be reported when they can conduct police brutality. It is a national law, with child protection law, where every teacher, coach, or police officer has to report child abuse. And we think that police also should be mandatory reporters. They should be forced to be able to, by law, and forced to be able to report police brutality, not just the ones you see on camera, but the ones you see behind police closed doors and police brutality that occurs back and then. We also have to make sure that we severely limit deadly force by police officers. That's a no-brainer. You have to make sure that prosecutors are authorized to control misconduct cases and incidents that occur in those jurisdictions. And if they refuse to prosecute, and some people in the state refuse to prosecute any police officer, if they refuse to prosecute, then they have the obligation to have an independent agency come in and investigate those cases. Even if you have an outfit like mine that prosecutes on a regular basis, you still should have an independent agency come in and look at those charges. We also need to look at getting rid of,
so much.
We also need to get rid of sovereign and qualified immunity, and we have other issues as well. We have 10 points that need to be done when it comes to police reform. But again, I'm the only one in the state prosecuting police brutality on a regular basis. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next question is going to go back to you, Kym, and it is from the chat here. Will you cease prosecuting minor misdemeanors so that funding allocated for that can be diverted to restorative justice programs and community well-being?
I'm not going to say that we're not going to prosecute every non-violent misdemeanor or even lower level misdemeanors. We already have a process in place. We divert most of the people in the juvenile court. We diverted between 6,000 to 8,000 again when we add in the truancy cases. So we already divert them. We already have a step-by-step process that we go through to do that as well. We haven't prosecuted any possession of marijuana cases in over 5 years, except for 2 agencies that continue to bring them to us, and we routinely dismiss them. And so we have also decriminalized several of the misdemeanors that we used to prosecute. We have gone to the state legislature to make sure that some of these cases, some of these crimes are not even laws anymore. And so we take a very serious look when it comes to the adult side. Again, we have a general diversion program that diverts out lower level misdemeanor crimes. And we make sure that they go through our 1-year program and they follow all the treatment goals and anything that has been recommended to them by treatment providers. And they, in fact, their cases are dismissed at the end of that program, at the end of that time. So again, we also have restorative justice programs in our mediation programs. We are getting ready to launch another restorative justice program in the juvenile court, where we bring in the victim, we bring in the person that has been in the youth home. We have them meet together, and hopefully our goal is to make sure that that person does not then go to reoffend in the adult system. So again, we're getting ready to roll that out, and that would have been rolled out except for COVID-19. We have other list of restorative justice programs that we've done over the years since 2005 to 2012, and then again from 2013 to today's date. Our program called Right Track in Juvenile Court, again, merits out any ordinance violation, any of the small crimes as well, and the lower level misdemeanors and lower level felonies again. So we have those programs in place, and we look forward to expanding some of them.
Thank you. Victoria, the question is about, will you cease prosecuting minor misdemeanors so that funding can be allocated to restorative justice programs and community well-being?
Absolutely. That's a part of my platform. I put it in writing so that people can hold me accountable. and hold me to that. As a criminal defense attorney, I can tell you that we still are bringing in a lot of marijuana cases in this system by this prosecutor's office. I just had during a pandemic, a client called and said that they were picked up for an old marijuana warrant and they were brought to the county jail. And so if we are going to not prosecute those, then that needs to actually happen and not just in words. We need to ensure that we are not putting people in the county jail for low-level offenses such as driving without a license. I spent several months last year traveling the state with the Michigan Jails Task Force, and Pew Research Institute, they've studied our county jails because there has not been a lot of transparency in who's been going in and why. And so they came up and they did the digging for us. And what they found is that the majority of the people in the county jails are there for low-level nonviolent offenses, such as state traffic misdemeanors. And you may be told, and folks have been told, that the prosecutor's office doesn't handle misdemeanors. That is absolutely not true. If you go to the prosecutor's website, you will see that they have a unit dedicated solely to misdemeanors. In fact, the supervisor for the misdemeanor unit happens to be on this forum. So they are prosecuting misdemeanors. They are bringing a lot of innocent people into the system and holding them in the county jail. And we have research institutes out of DC who have said, you need to stop that. Those people are not a danger to society, and you are wasting taxpayer dollars bringing them into the system when you can simply deny the warrant request. It's not bring them in and then divert them out. No, how about you don't bring them in at all because you have decriminalized certain low-level nonviolent offenses.
Thank you. Next question, back to Victoria. Describe your ideal prosecutor's office. How would that serve the citizens of Wayne County?
As the elected prosecutor, I'll be there. That office will not run itself. My executive board will not run it for me. I will be there and I'll be seen every single day in that building. In addition to that, I'll make sure that that office is transparent and accountable to the people that it serves. I will make sure that I am in the community and not just every 4 years when I want votes. I'll make sure that I am tethered to an advisory council, a community advisory council, who can make sure that I am addressing the needs of the people that I serve. Again, it's not about me. It's about those who I serve. And as a servant of the people, you can't serve the people if you're not communicating with them. If you are not talking with them, eating with them, marching with them, you have no idea what they need. You have no idea if that office is running in a way that they need it to run. And so when you are transparent, you are also publishing statistics about who's coming into the system, how people are leaving the system, how many people did you divert, at what point did you divert them, what are the demographics of people that you're bringing into the system. There does not need to be a dashboard created. In 16 years, we should have been able to find very easily a way to publish at the minimum quarterly reports and statistics. Vera from DC, again, an independent source, they came up and they have studied Wayne County and the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office some time ago. And what they found is that there's not even a database for that kind of information to be collected so it can be disseminated to the public. This is a no-brainer, folks. This is, a question of if we want to be transparent and let people know what we're doing, or if we don't. If we say that we do, we just do it. It does not require a 16-year process. It does not require any of the other excuses and reasons we've been given as to why that office is not being transparent and accountable to the people that it represents.
Thank you, Victoria. Kym, what's your ideal office?
Yes, I'm the only one in this race that has been to each and every one of the 43 jurisdictions in Wayne County in excess of 5 times. Anyone who says that a prosecutor is not doing their job because they're not physically in the office every day, which is a stretch, is they have to go over to the Wayne County Commission. We have to meet with public officials. We have to meet with police agencies. We have to meet with constituents. We have to go to Flat Rock. We have to go to Canton. We have to spend time in Detroit, and we have to meet with elected officials, and we have to certainly build relationships. I'm the one and the only one that runs the office, and my ideal office is one that we continue to work on. We have so many good initiatives that we started. We also want to advocate again for expanded mediated solutions. We want to make sure that we provide a 24-hour warrant review, so we're moving people in and out of the jail. It's very easy to say that you want to do this, you want to do that, but you're confined by your budget. I run a $44 million budget and have delivered 15 balanced budgets, and it has not been easy. We have scrapped and saved and been aggressive and gone after grants so we can run our programs and so we can be the best office we can be. There are programs that we wanted to establish for years that we weren't able to do because we certainly didn't have the resources to do so. And going forward in this COVID process is going to be even harder because the county is facing a $180 million budget deficit. So again, we have done an extremely good job in trying to expand and trying to let people know what we're doing, to make sure we have wraparound services to create and deal with every constituency in Wayne County, from it with LGBT to people of color, to women, to rape victims, to children, to seniors who are molested, in every democratic that we can to make sure. You notice you don't hear much said about victims, and we represent all of the people of the state of Michigan, not just defendants, but also victims as well. I have looked into the eyes of molested children and homicide victim families, and sex people and sexual human traffic people have been human trafficked, and sexual assault victims, and seen their carnage, seen their pain. And we have stood there with them to make sure that we are strong victim advocates to make them whole. And again, we have to make sure that we do all of that within a very constrained budget, and we've been very good about doing that. Are there improvements to be made? Yes, we are certainly, we want to establish that in the poo-poo, a dashboard like they have in Chicago and like they have in San Francisco and other areas to make yourself more transparent is certainly needed. We have tried, our annual reports are accessible. And again, we have also done citizen academies, town halls. We send out press releases. We try to do but we can do a better job in being transparent. That is true. And that is one of my main focuses in my next cycle. But again, you have to deal with victims of crime very gingerly, but at the same time, a prosecutor has a mandated function of making sure justice and due process is brought to defendants as well.
Thank you. Thank you. And with that, I have a couple of more questions here. And this is, Kym will start. What percentage of juvenile life offenders in your office have been resentenced due to the most recent U.S. Supreme Court decision, or have any, or would you for Victoria?
We have, I believe we had 149, because in those cases of our juvenile lifers, they included 17-year-olds that were lawfully convicted as adults. And so when you add in the 17-year-olds, I think we had 149, and we have sentenced well over 100. There isn't any place in the state that comes close to doing that. We have resentenced over 100 of the juvenile lifers, and the only reason they're not all done is we have some that we still have to do, and we have to manage with defense attorney schedules, with expert schedules, so we'd be much further along. We've even done 2 hearings during the COVID-19 process remotely. So again, we had a very, very robust process when we were directed by when everybody, all the prosecutors in the country were directed by the United States Supreme Court to resentence juvenile lifers. We began with a very deliberate process. We looked at every single case. A lot of my colleagues across the state just said we're gonna fight them all. We didn't do that. We took a very individual look at each case. We read all the trial files, and we decided the majority of them, I believe it was 80 at the time, and it's now turned into about 95, that we decided we're going to ask for a term of years sentence. We started with the ones that have been in prison longest. We worked with SATO very closely. We worked with the bench very closely. We developed policies and procedures that they have adopted through the state to make sure that these were done. And we've had a very robust process since the very beginning when we were told by the Supreme Court. So again, we have attacked this process very robustly. You will find our numbers higher than almost most people in the country that have done these cases. And again, there are certain laws that we are prescribed by, and we have sentenced, I believe it's 95 juvenile lifers so far.
Thank you.
Or
Victoria, resentence them so that they no longer have life.
Right, because we're not talking about people that didn't do the crime. We're talking about people that did, and because of science and the direct dictates of the United States Supreme Court.
Is it my turn to talk right now, Lisa? Okay. Or
we didn't start you. No, go ahead, Victoria.
Okay, thanks.
We'll start right now. Sorry. Go
ahead. All right. So I have had lots of conversations with folks from the State Appellate Defender's Office, folks who are currently or who have handled a lot of those cases. And what they will tell me is that, yes, those cases have been resentenced, but their resentencing has been life without parole. So that means they're not coming home. We have to be very careful with the language that's spoken, and we have to dig beneath the surface and ask, what does that really mean? In 2016, the Harvard Law School did a study and said that the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office was one of the slowest in the country to bring home our former juvenile lifers. So it's not about just resentencing. It's about resentencing so that they can be released and they can be brought back home to their families. People age out of crime. We know that it is not okay to say that what a child did at 16 or 17, they should still be paying for at the age of 60 or 70. We know that just here recently, there was a man who lost his life during the pandemic, and he would not have lost his life had the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office not opposed his release, not drug their feet in making sure that he could come home. They opposed it every step along the way. And to this day, he's not here and he's not coming back because of those practices. And it's just so callous to say that we are progressive and the progressive in the state with bringing home our former juvenile lifers. When I just sat down with the father of a juvenile lifer this past week, his son is named Q, and he has reached out to national criminal justice reform orgs to bring attention to his son's imprisonment and to bring attention to the fact that despite all efforts on all fronts, the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office is opposing his release, and they are advocating for him to be resentenced, but resentenced to a term of life. Life. That's not progressive. That's morally reprehensible.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you very much. And with that, we are at the end of our time. So we are going to have closing statements in reverse alphabetical order. Kym, please take 1 minute.
Thank you. You know, our prosecutor's bread and butter is the truth, it's honesty, it's integrity. And I have to say, I have sat here and listened to so many untruths about my record. First of all, it has not been 95 people that we have resentenced to life without parole. There's only been 5 that have been resentenced to life without parole. The overwhelming majority of them have been sentenced to a term of years, and that's but one truth. If you have a candidate for the chief law enforcement officer in the county who cannot even tell the truth on the campaign trail about the record, but the good thing is, with a click of a mouse, you can find the truth. And with a click of a mouse, you can come up with stories and statistics and the truth about what's going on in my office. It's very disturbing when you have someone running for this office, when you have to be counted on for truth and honesty and leadership and experience and integrity to make sure you misrepresent records. Now, I want to just go back to what my record is. We've talked about the various programs that we've had. We've talked about the conviction integrity unit when no one else in the state is bold enough to do it. We've talked about the mental health concerns that we have. And we want to talk about what we're going to do going forward. We're going to continue with our work with treatment courts. We're going to continue with our work on reform. We're going to continue with our work in advocating for a state and national database to track police brutality. We're going to continue with our work to combat police brutality. We're going to continue with our work to expand our diversion and resolution and our mediated resolution programs. We're going to continue our work with restorative justice. We're going to continue our work with already established restorative justice practices program. We're going to continue our work to enhance wraparound services for the newly exonerated, including transportation services, housing services, and free tuition for those who want to go to college. We're going to continue our work to be better at our transparency. We're going to continue our work to provide leadership and comfort to human trafficking victims, to rape victims, to child sexual abuse victims, to elder abuse victims, to victims of homicides and their families. And for every other crime that we do for our victims, at the same time, we're going to continue working and making sure that we bring due process to defendants. I urge you to fact check this chat and fact check this form. And you will find some things that are very different from what's being said. I urge for your support. Again, you know me, you know that I'm honest, you know that I have good integrity, you know that I have good character, and I ask you to vote for me on August the 4th.
Sorry, we will give Victoria 2 minutes since Kym went over. If you can make that adjustment, Louise, go ahead.
Thank you. It is time for our actions to align with our words. When we stop criminalizing children like a 10-year-old Black boy in Canton last year after a dodgeball incident, we will be a better county. When do we answer for the injustice against Devontae Sanford, who was wrongfully imprisoned for almost a decade after we knew he was innocent? You want to talk about Googling and fact checking and integrity? That's a great place to start. When do we do something about criminalizing poor people who can't afford cash bail and are supposed to be innocent until proven guilty? When do we stop throwing people with mental illness and substance addiction in jail? When do we treat those issues as a public health crisis and not a criminal justice issue? Again, Vera Research Institute out of DC, they studied our county jails just last year, and they provided a disturbing report on the high amount of mentally ill people we need in our jails. You don't have to take my word for it. Read the report, it's public. It came out in January of this year. This is all happening on our watch because for years we've done nothing different. We have continued to keep the same people in office and never question their record, especially the things they do not boast about. We deserve answers, and we certainly deserve better. We deserve someone who's going to reform the broken cash bail system, end the failed war on drugs that has taken so many of our Black men, end the school to prison pipeline, and bring restorative justice to all people in Wayne County. Across our country, there's this national uprising. Folks are tired of doing what we've always done and getting what we've always gotten. We are on the precipice of something new, something bold, and something different. We need and deserve bold change. Change, not a continuation of the same. New leadership in the prosecutor's office. And that's exactly what I'm going to do for you as your next Wayne County prosecutor.
Thank you so much, Victoria. And with that, I would like to thank Kym Worthy and Victoria Burton-Harris for participating today, and all our candidates. But I really have to give a shout out to Kent Douglas, Louise Weller, Susan Nichols, Renee. There's so much work that goes behind an event like this, putting it together. And I'll tell you, they were professional. They were hardworking. We met yesterday. We have pages and pages of notes so that it could come off well. And to them, I thank, and it's been an honor to serve you today as your moderator.
Thank you, Lisa. I just wanted to take time to thank Lisa Dorado, our moderator, chair of the Northfield Dems, for joining us tonight and taking the time to moderate and give questions to all of our candidates. I want to give thanks to the candidates for coming out tonight to take time out of their schedule. Some of them have extremely busy schedules while they're campaigning and are in office, or both. And secondly, I want to thank everyone who joined us tonight. I measured as of this meeting and our Facebook viewership, we had well over 100 people in attendance tonight. It's probably more than we've ever had for any of our meetings or events in probably over a year. So I want to thank you all tonight. I hope that if you've been moved tonight by anything that's been said by any of the candidates, or you've been moved at all by any of the issues that have been spoken of, you will support the candidates either with your time or your money. I know that a lot of those things don't seem to always be readily available, but if you're willing to prioritize that time, that's putting your words into action, and that's bringing your power into the world. So with that, I want to thank you all. I want to thank Louise Weller for keeping the time. And that being said, we're going to be calling this to a close, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
Good night. Thank you.